Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. We're talking about the Las Vegas Raiders in tonight's video. I want to show you this angle of Dante Thornton touchdown last night against the Arizona Cardinals. This is a beautiful throw here from Geno Smith, and it's an even better catch from Dante Thornton, the rookie out of the University of Tennessee. And I want to show you an all-22 clip that kind of brings this home, because I loved, first off, Geno Smith threw him this kind of yes-no 50-50 football, and I love the way Dante came down with this, because you have to keep in mind, when Dante came into the NFL draft, he doesn't have like this long pedigree of catching footballs back at college. He was kind of this big play guy, averaged a bunch of yards per carry, had some touchdowns, but this was, viewed as more of a project type of piece. And, yeah, I'll admit it, maybe a separation hasn't been 100,000 billion% what you're looking for in preseason, but the future is so high. And let's just get into that other clip. So we've seen this a bunch in preseason, actually. Geno Smith ripping the football to Dante Thornton, all right? Now, Dante's unbelievably fast, and we know that, but he's also unbelievably big. And so you see this play specifically because he's going up against, and the whole Raiders first team offense was going against the second team or the backups for the Arizona Cardinals. Dante is 6'5". He's 6'5", and you kind of notice in this clip, you see Denzel Burke, the Cardinals defensive back, you see him jumping for joy. He's 5'10", Dante is 6'5", so of course he's got to jump for joy here. Thornton's right foot's on the ground. I don't even really, or you kind of see, maybe it's not necessarily on the ground, but it's barely off the ground. He doesn't really have to jump up for this football. Maybe this angle will even give you a better view. Not really, because this is the all-22, so it's like barely on screen. But you kind of see what we're going for. Dante, or Denzel, sorry, 5'10", he's got to jump high for this football. And Dante just kind of barely gets barely gets his feet off of the ground to make this play. And one of the things that we were kind of harping on in that last clip is Dante Thornton last season, for example, only had 26 catches. All right, so he had 661 yards and 6 touchdowns, and he averaged a bunch of yards per carry or catch. But we still... That's why he was used as a project piece, because he runs so quick. He's 22, but he's 6'5", 205 pounds. And it's like, he only had 26 catches last season at Tennessee, and maybe that's got to be refined. The separation's got to be refined. It's got to be worked on throughout his rookie season. But the height is there, the talent is there, and I wanted to show this clip because it's, kind of the biggest one from the Raiders game last night, but he really seems like the real deal. He gets that foot in there at the last minute, and this was just artwork. I loved the throw from Geno Smith, and I loved the execution from Dante Thornton Jr., so let's keep it moving. As I wanted to throw this in because Ashton Genty only had 2 total carries for 5 yards last night, and you see kind of, I've already seen a few things of like his preseason, because he had a really good second preseason game in the first week, nothing too much there. And here's him just kind of trucking the Arizona Cardinals. But I wanted to look at some of the more small stuff in this video, or in this clip particularly, which, by the way, hit that like button, hit that sub button if you guys have it already. Try and get this one to 100 likes, folks. Made the absolute difference. So appreciate you guys watching this. He had 2 carries for 5 yards, right? And this can be the longest one for 4. But what I really like is, and we'll even, obviously, the truck. He absolutely trucks number 32, stays on his feet, and gets a little bit more yardage. But what I really liked here, the small stuff, was the offensive line. And we'll look at like Colton Miller in particular, a terrible square, but Colton gets kind of ragged on because people don't think he's a good run blocker. People think he's an excellent pass blocker, but not very good in the run. What I like about this is all of these 3 offensive linemen, from center to guard to tackles, they're moving this line of scrimmage. So you see Genty right here, his eyes are kind of looking out, it's an outside zone, and he cuts back immediately and then just pull on number 32. But I really liked just the simplicity of this, and I get it, you're going up against backups, I get it. But we got a double team on 96 here, we got man coverage, we got a one-on-one here with 65, we got a one-on-one here with number 90, and Colton really in particular Number 74, the left tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders, he just pushes number 90 all the way. He pushes him several yards. So I've already seen some Ashton Genty hate or, concerns about him being a bust, not from Raiders fans, but just from the NFL media, like Twitter world, looking for some clicks, needing some clicks now that preseason is over. And I don't think any Raiders fan is really tweaking about Ashton Genty, and I just had to throw this in here because I really liked the offensive line and pulling everybody to the right, and then Genty obviously with the truck. But now for some bad. First off, Aiden O'Connell is injured, and he's going to be out 6 to 8 weeks, and Cam Miller hasn't looked as good as he looked since the first preseason game. Last night he went 12 of 24 for 102 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, and also took 4 total sacks. But Aiden O'Connell, it's funny how much time goes, and we're looking at number 77 here in particular, Thayer Munford, because he's the reason for this, and I'll just let it play out before we even get into it. And the broadcast was even late on this too. But you can see, he just gets simply beat. He's getting pushed around like a rag doll. So the offensive line, DJ Glaze is going to be the starting right tackle for the Las Vegas Raiders, at least in my opinion, this upcoming season. You still got JPJ. You got Colton Miller. There's some studs on the offensive line. Dylan Parham at left guard has had a very good preseason as well. But Thayer Munford, we kind of lead up to this injury. He just gets pushed like a rag doll, like seriously. And Aiden is able to kind of barely maneuver out of the pocket here and still ultimately ends up getting attacked or sacked, and it's a fumble. And Aiden O'Connell was not a very good backup quarterback for Las Vegas this preseason, and now that he's injured, you've already kind of seen some DTR rumors. You've seen some rumors because Cam Miller, as intriguing as he is, as intriguing of a first preseason game he had, it's not somebody you want to rely on. And even Aiden O'Connell, without the injury, but especially with the injury, not really somebody you want to rely on. So apparently the Raiders are looking for experience with their backup preseason, or with their backup quarterback, because preseason it was not good for Aiden O'Connell, and it's a little bit worrisome with quarterback number 2. So I would anticipate, even prior by the time some of you guys watch this video, because cut day is less than 48 hours away, I'm sure the Raiders will have a brand new quarterback number 2 now that Aiden O'Connell is injured. So some quick comments here on this defensive line. Max Crosby looked like a superstar stud. Tyree Wilson also had a nice run defensive game. Andre Carter continues to flash in his second season out of Army. But Malcolm Kuntz, the thing with Malcolm here, and this is beautiful, and maybe the angle kind of looks like somebody's giving some help, but he slashes that arm on number 67 for the Arizona Cardinals, and he just takes Clayton Tune down, and this is a sack. And Max Crosby and Pete Carroll, they're absolutely amped up after the fact. But Malcolm Kuntz is coming off that injury, and we're starting to finally see some of those flashes, because Kuntz, when Antonio Pierce first took over intern-wise, he was flashing like a future star in the National Football League, and then he has a brutal, gruesome injury, and it's going to take some time for him to get back up to speed. But I really liked this. He did this move, kind of the arm slash here. He did this a couple of times last night. I think he only played 14 snaps. Maybe it was 12. I think it was 14. And he won a lot of his reps, man. And this is where he finally gets that sack on Clayton. And, like we always say on these videos, I don't really care if it's preseason. His athleticism, his mobility, his explosiveness, that is something that was on full display last night, and it's just so good to have Malcolm Kuntz back, because if we're gauging it off of what we've seen from him before he got injured, and then on the opposite sides, one of, if not the best defensive edge in the entire NFL, and Max Crosby, this defensive line, they've got some dogs, all right? So just to continue to go off of, we can't really see him quite yet. You see him number 33, Jamal Adams. This was on third down, and he just bats this off. And this guy is so versatile. Jamal Adams is so versatile, and I keep seeing so much hate for Patrick Graham entering his third campaign, and people are basing it off of 3 preseason football games. But I look at guys like Jamal Adams on this defense. I look at Tyree Wilson. Looks like he's unlocked it as far as rush defense goes. He was stopping runs all last night against Arizona. He's had a really solid preseason. And then you look at Jamal Adams, who's only 30 years old, The Raiders picked him up not too long ago, and he's just one smart cookie. We've seen numerous, especially that first game against the Seattle Seahawks where Jamal Adams had like 3 tackles. One of those was a tackle for loss. Here we see him deflecting, batting a ball down on 3rd down, and this isn't Kyler Murray, this is Clayton Tune, but the point still stands. This Raiders team's got some dogs, man, and we've talked about Andre Carter. We talked especially about Tonka Hemingway a few days ago in our last Raiders video, and I know it's not perfect. I know it's not the best defense in the NFL, and people have some big-time concerns, sometimes rightfully so, with that defensive back room, but at the end of the day, man, Geno looks really good. This defense has some talent. I mean, they've clearly got some talent, and I don't know. It's got me very excited about the Las Vegas Raiders' upcoming season. So, folks, that's going to be it for today. I just kind of wanted to do a reaction to this Cardinals preseason game. But if you enjoyed it, hit that like button, hit that sub button for more. Let me know who flashed. Let me know who didn't flash. We've got roster cuts less than 48 hours from the time of this recording, so we'll see in a handful of days. Peace.